Welcome to the Bougie Baldie podcast with your host, Kellie Rhymes. Previously on the Bougie Baldie podcast with guest Qawana Lee.
There's a lot of ignorance and stigma behind mental health in general, especially with women, menopausal women and Black women, and the way we navigate through breast cancer has been slightly more challenging. There are some other reasons that I actually believe as well, and I think some of it is we don't necessarily always get the same care.
And now, part 2 of the Bougie Baldie podcast with guest Qawana Lee.
None of that happens. People ask me all the time, would I change my journey? When I was younger and sitting in some of the stuff, I was like, oh God, I don't want to do this. But as I've matured and I've developed an awareness and an understanding, I don't think that I would change a thing. I would continue to stay steady in controlling how I handle the narrative, because that's all I can control. I'm not in control. We're not supposed to be here forever.
Yeah.
And you cannot have good times without the bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
So
or you can't appreciate the good times without the bad ones.
You can't appreciate the good ones without the bad ones.
Yeah.
So, has it been rough? Absolutely. Has it been exhausting? Of course.
Mm-hmm.
But legacy is more than just being able to procreate and have a couple of kids and all of that. The legacy is about how you show up and, the blueprint you leave behind for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Oh, goodness. This is such a great conversation. I want to continue on this road, but I want to get to your diagnosis of alopecia. I have so much more to say about what we were talking about, but I know I need to continue for time's sake. So
sure,
I'm forcing myself to continue to move forward. So you talked about being newly diagnosed with alopecia, okay?
Yep.
And that was caused by the cancer or the medications you were taking whenever you had cancer. So
I'm still taking them. Yes.
Oh, okay. So can you talk to us about that? What is going on? And
sure,
let us know what's happening.
So when I got my breast cancer diagnosis, shortly after the double mastectomy, so what I will say is this: a lot of women go on what's called an aromatase inhibitor. Or you'll hear that word, you'll hear oral chemo, you will hear hormone blocker. So they're all interchangeable, depending on the oncologist and what day of the week. They're all interchangeable. There are several types, and some of them are for women who are what they call premenopausal. They have still have their ovaries, or they still have their reproductive systems. And then you have the ones for women who are postmenopausal.
Okay.
They're 50 or older, and in my case, I had a complete hysterectomy when I was 30. So I have already been in menopause for the past 17 years. I could write a book on it and I could tell you all the things, because it's been my journey. So I was put on what's called anastrozole. And anastrozole is for women who are postmenopausal, because what people don't know, and I didn't know this either, so I learned something new on this journey. You have other organs that are still secreting estrogen and progesterone. And my breast cancer was both estrogen and progesterone receptive. My what they call oncotype score, it was a little bit on the higher side. So 9 times out of 10, if you've got breast cancer, they're probably going to put you on one of these medications.
Okay.
And studies show that, I guess, when they've done their research, the number was 3 years. 3 years of results where it lowered your risk. The point is it's supposed to lower your risk of a reoccurrence of any of these types of breast cancers. So they've decided to go with the number 5. Well, we know the studies show that after 3 years, it lowers a woman's risk of breast cancer. Let's put all the patients on for 5 years.
Okay.
Some women will do longer, 7 years, 10 years, case by case. There's no one size fit all when it comes to breast cancer. So I was put on anastrozole 3 years ago, right after the mastectomy. Everything was going great, but I had a feeling that I could potentially have hair thinning, right? Hair shedding, hair thinning, and I have super thick, curly, like ringlet hair, like big, curly, thick hair. So if my hair went thin, I probably wouldn't have known for a long time. Nobody would have noticed. And I was like, all right, not a problem. So after 2 years, a year and a half in, I lost my hair.
So did it just all fall out like all of a sudden, or was it gradual? Like, how did it happen?
So I noticed that in the front, the alopecia that I actually have, I have the name of it here. It's called androgenetic alopecia, which is typically what women who are menopausal get.
Right.
And you either have the receding hairline or your temples start to recede back, or you super shiny. And some women get right here in the very, very top. In my case, it was right here in the front, especially on the right side. And then I had a couple on the nape, like I had a couple of patches in the nape. And it took me a while, like in the nape, I thought like, oh, well, maybe I'm pulling my hair in a bun too tight or whatever. And I didn't think, and then I thought, let me quit wearing headbands because I didn't like to have my hair in my face. So I would be wearing headbands. Let me quit wearing headbands. And then one day I happened to be taking a shower and I was actually washing my hair, was detangling my hair. And it was just a big patch of hair that just was in my hand. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Right.
Here we go. So I shaved it all off and was just like, all right, and in my mind, I was like, well, okay, so it'll grow. It's just hair. It'll grow back. I'm on these meds. Not a big deal. Went to the oncologist, and the oncologist literally looked me in the face and he said, no, I don't think that's what it is. And he made this backdoor comment about like, well, my brother contracted COVID. And after that, he went bald and had to go get hair transplants. I said, what does that have to do with me? And what does that have to do with breast cancer? And what does that have to do with this drug?
Right.
Because your brother catching COVID and going to get hair plugs ain't got nothing to do with my situation. Like you're not helping me at all. So it was, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, it didn't even bother me at that point because in my mind, it was like, this is temporary in my mind. So I really didn't emotionally connect. I didn't feel one way or the other about it. Like I was very indifferent about it. A year went by. And at the time, my daughter also started like this hair growth oil line because she, has all this hair. And I was the inspiration behind it. And she was like trying to find all of these natural homeopathic ways for me to be able to use something on my head that didn't have chemicals because we're trying to avoid all types of chemicals.
Right.
And she ended up launching this line and I was using the hair oil and the hair did start to grow back. It wasn't growing back as fast as all the other parts of my hair because my hair grows. It's just certain areas that wasn't growing.
Right.
And I just stayed consistent and it started growing back. So at this time last year, I had hair. And it was starting to grow back and the curls were starting to come in. By November, it was falling out again. And this time it was worse.
Okay.
So I said, okay, it's time for me to go to a dermatologist. So I went to the dermatologist and, they did their spiel and she basically told me, she said, well, think about it. Estrogen and progesterone is what allows you to keep hair. She said, in your case, she was like, you have a severe case of this type of alopecia. She said most menopausal women have some light form of it, but in your case, you had a hysterectomy at 30 years old. You've been without estrogen and progesterone for 17 years, and now you're on a drug that's really shutting everything off. So she talked about doing some sort of she's talking about doing some sort of steroid injection and gave me all the side effects of that. And I said, yep, that doesn't sound like my kind of thing.
That was me too. I was like, no, I'm not doing any injections in my scalp.
Thank you, but no, thank you. And then she talked to me about topical solutions and talked about how my skin could discolor. And I looked at her, I said, you see how chocolate I am over here? Like if skin discolors in this spot, that's going to look crazy. And I just was like, you know what? Thank you for the official diagnosis. Now I understand what I'm dealing with because that was the thing. I just needed to have an understanding of what I was dealing with. Then I went through the grieving period. But before I didn't go through a grieving period. But I had to this time, once it was official, once I had an understanding of what I was dealing with, then I had to go through the grieving period.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good that you recognize, because I've said this before, just to other guests and other people, like I didn't even recognize that I went through a grieving period when I lost my hair. I didn't, because I guess I was so busy in A, denial, and then B, covering it up and trying to hide it, and then also just trying to mentally make it through my feelings and emotions. Like I was just trying to deal with so much. I didn't even think about grief until I started working with other women and getting into this space. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah, you do have to grieve. Or you do go through a grieving process when you lose your hair. Like I just never thought about it until after the fact. And I did go through it. I just didn't know that's what I was
didn't
going
realize
through.
that's what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was intentional for me. Like I kind of said it out loud, because I was having a conversation with my daughter, and I was like, I just had finally gotten to a place where I was feeling very grounded and whole and comfortable, because we've gone through this hair journey, these stereotypes and all these hair types and all this stuff. And, and I'd already gone through this, being, having my hair compared to other people's hair. And, what texturizer are you using to get those curls, and what kind of twist out are you doing? And I'm like, no, I just co-washed it and put some conditioner in it and a little gel so it don't dry out. Like I had, like the curls used to curl. And it took me a long time to like really, and I had named her. Her name was Nikki.
Oh, okay.
Her name was Nikki. And listen, and it took me a long time to become best friends with Nikki.
Okay.
And when I tell you, I'm sure you already know some of the inappropriate conversations that people have with you about your hair and wanting to come up and touch your hair, and oh, but you could wear that. And I'm like, okay, it took me forever to finally get to a place where I was unbothered, and then bam. And so it was immediate. I was like, oh my God, I have to have a moment of silence for Nikki. Like I gotta grieve her, because I just became best friends with her. And I went through so much to get to this place, and now she's gone.
Right.
And of course, you get you just go buy a wig. Well, for what? Well, first of all, I have a little head, which means that I got to get a custom wig, and I just can't justify the cost. And then you only got that one hairstyle. Like,
yeah, you gotta buy multiple wigs if you want different looks, and that costs.
And then it's itchy and it's hot, and then I'm allergic to some of the fibers that they use to make the wigs. Like the list is just on and on and on and on. And so, although I was diagnosed with alopecia, I like to still say that I'm bald by choice, because we could have chose to go get hair transplantation, or we could have chose to do the steroid injections and all the other stuff that they offer to us. We could have chose to do the wigs. We could have chose a whole lot of stuff, but we're choosing to sit in our glory.
Yes.
And so although cancer drugs got me here, and probably some stress too, right? Add some stress on that. I still had a choice. And this was the choice that I decided to make. But I did grieve. Like when I say grieve, I actually took a trip to Vegas by myself and spent a whole week. Maybe I went to dinner, maybe I went shopping, maybe I ate snacks and laid in the bed and watched a chick flick. Like it was just right. And I cried and I laughed and and then I had conversations with people to just, finally educate them on what was happening with me. And especially the women in my family. My daughter, who has very long, beautiful, curly hair. My mom and my sister over here with these locks, and my mom is a silver fox. And so here's the other thing that I had to grieve. I was looking forward to seeing what I was going to look like as a silver fox. And I had really been like, y'all prepare to be sick of me, because when I become a silver fox, because I didn't have gray hair, and my sister's got a little sprinkle, but my mom is just out here silver with her locks. And I was like, oh, I can't wait. So I had to grieve all of that.
And I think too, and I said this to another guest, we were talking about how when you hit that good old 40 and you realize like I need to make some changes. And you don't care what needs to happen, who is going to be affected. It's about you and your happiness. That's when you really get into that healing work. I know it started with me like that, and I've talked to so many other ladies. But when you start getting to that maturity level, like you knew you needed to stop, take a break, go somewhere, sit down and grieve, right? Like that takes a level of maturity, a level of knowing yourself, knowing what you need that you have to get to. And if you're not working on yourself, you don't even know that that's what you're supposed to do.
But it's every day. Like you have to get up every day and intentionally do the work. You can't pick and choose when you want to do the work because something's happening. Something's going to happen and you're not going to be prepared for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely,
every single day. And also I talk to my therapist about it. Like I ain't gonna lie, like I'm in therapy. I love therapy. I think therapy is important. I think, we talk about eating healthy and exercising and all this other stuff. Well, I said I wanted to exercise my brain as much as I did my body. Well, therapy. So it's on the list of things that we discuss. Right. But I needed to grieve because grieving was also something that we didn't grow up doing.
Yeah. Just like you said earlier, we were, not just you, I think most of us were taught to close your mouth, keep it moving, don't deal with it. Like I'm still trying to figure out my emotions. Like what emotion am I having right now? Like I have to intentionally be like, well, wait a minute, let me let myself feel this. And what am I feeling? Because I suppressed my emotions for so long.
Yes. I've had to ask my tribe, like, am I doing too much? Like, am I doing the most? Are these feelings just like, and then I would end it with, if I'm being ridiculous, just let me know because I'm just trying to understand what's happening here. If I'm being ridiculous, I will not be in my feelings if you tell me to go sit down somewhere. But I like, this is what's happening to me right now. And so, and you know what, I will tell you, just like with cancer diagnosis, I think too, this situation with my alopecia, this is going to sound crazy, but I think it happened to the right person when it comes to my family dynamic. I think I was the person who was meant to be the educator in this family. And bring in an awareness to the women in my family when it came to everything from breast health to, hormonal changes and menopause and all of the mental health stuff and dementia and just being a Black woman in general and some of the things that we deal with that nobody wants to talk about because it's uncomfortable, like those fierce conversations. I remember saying to the women in my family, I'm like, do me a favor, don't feel weird around me. Because I am not my hair. Well, no. So here's the thing that I feel, this is my opinion and we're all entitled to our opinion. My opinion about hair is that it is also it is almost like your fingerprints, right? Like everybody's hair is different. It's unique to who you are. It's a part of your DNA, just like your fingerprint.
Right.
So when people dismiss and say, oh, but you're not your hair, let it go, it's not a big deal. Well, no, it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal because it is a part of who you are. It's part of your DNA. It is a part of your identity to a degree. Like I remember people being like, yeah, cute, the one with the big curly hair, right? And it's fine now that it's, it's the one with the cheekbones, if it has to change. But I think we gaslight and we water down and tone down so much about hair identity and women in general, like our hair and our breasts are the two things and our reproductive systems are the three things, right? That really society has kind of molded us to hold dear to our hearts. And so when you're losing them all, and in my case, I've lost all three. I've had to have the conversation with the women in my family. My daughter, who's 25 years old, she is at the prime of her life. She is all the things. She's got this supple skin and this beautiful hair and all this, right? And I'm like, girl, go be 25.
Yes.
Go be 25 and let the hair, and I'm the one that, man, I trim her ends and all that stuff. I'm like, don't be not calling me to take care of your hair because you got all the hair because I started you on the journey, right? And even with my mom and my sister, I'm like, don't feel uncomfortable around me. You know, we're all fabulous in our own right. Continue to be that.
Definitely.
Don't feel uncomfortable, but also I want y'all to recognize that I am going from time to time have some hair envy. And I am from time to time going to probably have a stage of grieving. It's going to happen out of nowhere. And some days I'm going to feel super empowered and I'm going to be ready for the world. And some days I'm going to want to crawl under a rock and I'm not going to want to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to be transparent with them about what this looks like for me. And they've been amazing through all of this.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that they have been so supportive. And to your point about when people say, oh, it's just hair and yada, yada, yada. I was speaking with a gentleman who has alopecia, and he gave me this scenario where someone said that to him, like, oh, it's okay, it's just hair, it's no big deal. You look younger, yada, yada, yada. And he said to them, well, how about I shave off one of your eyebrows and you go to an interview and let's see how you feel. That changed the whole mindset. Like, yeah, let's think of it if it happens to you and how would you feel? If your eyebrows are just gone all of a sudden, or you just have one, or you have patches all over your head and you have to go to work the next day or go to a social event, how would you feel?
That part. Yeah. That part. And I'm glad that you mentioned the guy, because that's the other thing. I have had the male community. Oh my goodness. Like the other bald man, one of my best friends, he's bald. And he was like, yeah, I started losing my hair very early, like in my 20s. And he said, and one day he tells me this story. He goes, I went to the barber shop. He said, and the barber didn't mean anything by it, but he said, well, all right, what are we doing with this? Right. But he didn't mean it the way. He was like, I took it that way, but he didn't mean it that way. He said, I went home and shaved it all off. And that was the beginning of my bald journey. He said, and then like weeks later or months later, I ran into the barber at the store and the barber was like, where you been? I haven't seen you in a long time. And I see you shaved all your hair off. What's going on? He was like, well, you said, what are we going to do with this? He was like, I think that was the sign. He was like, I think that was the sign that I needed to let it go. And so he was just so nonchalant. Women need men to show up and be like, yes. And we need it. We need men to embrace us and tell us it's okay. Right. I'd like to sit here and say, oh, no, we don't need that. No, we do.
We do. Yeah.
We do. Because here's the thing. Matter of fact, I'm a sucker for a bald guy with a beard. So men get celebrated all the time for their baldness, even if they're feeling insecure, especially if they came from having a bunch of hair or whatever, and so I understand that men are also dealing with the insecurity of baldness, but they get celebrated though, because we women, we like you baldies with the beards. We're here for y'all. So are y'all here for us? Because we want to know. Like we don't know. And we don't know if there's a lane for us in the relationship, pool. Is this our kitty?
It right?
Is. And so so these were all things that, I mean, I'm actually selectively single. I'm intentionally choosing to like not date for, just so that I could focus on life. But I was always curious, but I will tell you, my guy friends, and my guy friends are rough, honey. They will throw some shade. They're not gonna tell you something that they don't mean. And I learned that by most men. But after I went bald, me and my sister went to Vegas, and that was the first time I actually exposed my baldness. Like we went to Vegas for my birthday, and we couldn't get down the street. People were constantly just like, "Oh my God." Like stopping me. And you know what? I was super basic that day. I didn't do anything spectacular, but everybody from all walks of life were just stopping me. And especially the brothers, they were just like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I was like, okay, I guess this works then.
Yes, it does. That's why I said there's a lane, because I'm telling you, I met my spouse bald.
Really?
Even with me just putting a podcast out, being on social media, you know how many men go message me, I love your bald head. Like, yes. And that's why I tell ladies all the time, don't think you can't date. And if you're with someone who doesn't like you or decides they don't want to be in a relationship because you lose your hair, trust me, there's somebody out there that's going to
Yep.
want you. So you need to be with the person who wants to be with you.
Yeah. Yeah. A really, really good childhood friend of mine. I went to the beach one day, and I had a ball cap on because the sun was like, and
Mhm.
now my mom is yelling at me about protecting my head all the time,
Mhm.
covering up my head.
Look, I got a
And
wrap on now because I got a sunburn on my head. So yes.
yeah, yep. So I was just taking a video of the beach, right? Just like, oh my God, like look at the beach. He said, take that hat off. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, take that hat off. I can't see your face. He said, listen, he said, you have a face card. Show your face. Like, quit hiding behind the hats and the scarves and he used to yell at me all the time about covering up my head. And again, we've known each other since we were kids. And this is a guy who's like brutal, like he throws shade all the time. And so he don't hold no punches, but he's like, take the hat off. Like, he was like, what are you hiding behind? Well, right now, the sun, like, but he was like, I just want to make sure you're not out here hiding behind hats and stuff. But here's the thing. I actually wore head wraps and scarves and hats and all types of things, especially in the winter. My curls didn't like the winter. So instead of wearing braids and all that, I would protective hairstyle by wearing hats and all of that stuff anyway. Like that was my norm. I already had a surplus of all this stuff. So when I went bald, I already had everything that I needed to continue on. I am really grateful for how celebrated and accepted I have. I can't really say that I've struggled much, but I'm also extremely introverted and I'm not really out like that to be exposed to people. And I know that there have been some, even if they've been unintentional, some backhanded comments. I even had a loved one who also got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she'd also lost her hair, and she was going through her grieving period, and she didn't mean it, and I didn't take it personal, but I was like, it's a good thing that I did all this work on myself and I've got this confidence. But she was like, she was like, yeah, but you can be bald. Like, I just can't. Not what I took from that was she's just not in this place of acceptance yet. Right. She is going through her stages of grief, and this is how she grieves. Because I could have sensitively heard, well, you could be bald, but I'm not doing that. Like, you could do that, but I'm not doing that. And I chose not to be offended by that, because again, I've been in her shoes. Like right after I got cleared, she then got diagnosed, and so I got it. And people probably still want to touch my head even with no hair.
Oh, yes, they do. They do.
It's insane. It's insane. It's so insane.
Oh, goodness. Now, okay, so now you mentioned, and I want to kind of go into this and kind of wrap up our conversation. You mentioned your daughter, and she has a natural oil line. Is that correct?
She does. Yeah, she does hair growth oil, hot oil treatments, and she actually also does beard elixir for men.
So, but you guys are starting a podcast together, right?
We are.
All right. Talk to us about the podcast. What's the title? What is it going to be about? And how can people find you? All of those things.
Yes. So it is going to be, it's going to be called Leave It Up to Us, and playing on the last name Lee. So Leave It Up to Us. You guys are going to learn that we are very much a lot alike, even though we're so much different in age gap. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the fierce and uncomfortable conversations that are, for some reason, even in 2025, people are just kind of scared to address. We're going to talk about mother-daughter relationships. We're going to talk about generational, like what it's like to date in different generations. We're going to talk about what it's like to be a Black woman as a 25-year-old and as a 47-year-old. We're going to talk about motherhood and what it's like to prepare for motherhood and why it's important to prepare for motherhood if you can. And we're going to talk about health things. So it's going to be really cute. We're going to create our own glossary because we have our own terminology of stuff. We're going to be talking about relationships. There's going to be some storytelling. And so we're going to have to probably change names to tell the stories, right?
Uh-huh.
But we're going to have a little glossary that's going to go, and it'll be on YouTube. So we'll have a glossary that's going to go with the video so that when we use a term, you know what we're talking about. And we will always have something to drink when we're doing this. So it'll either be sparkling water, which is our favorite. We love sparkling water. And when we do sparkling water topics, we're going to be talking about anything from, health and wellness, mental health, it'll be what we call G-rated conversations. And then we're going to have tea because we love tea.
Okay.
So we're going to be spilling tea. And then we're going to have wine segments, which means that we're getting into some real adult conversations, right? And then we're going to have our drink conversations. So it's, our drink of choice, whatever that's going to be. And that's where it's going down. Like,
okay,
don't have your kids in the room when you're listening to this, because it's going to be super transparent, authentic. And I'm probably going to say whatever's on my heart. Because you know what? I've been waiting for a long time to get to a place where I can say exactly what I want to say with no filter and not have to think about what I say before I say it and how I say it to make sure I don't hurt nobody's feelings. And so this is the platform for me to be able to do that. We're going to have, in the beginning, we're going to start just she and I, so that the audience gets a chance to really get to know us and become personal with our relationship and how close we are. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of things. We're going to talk about breakups and divorce and what divorce does to even adult children and not just small children. And we're going to be talking about narcissism. We're going to be talking about bipolar disorder. We're going to be talking about all, you name it. We're going to be talking about it. And of course, we'll have our data. We're not going to just talk out the side of our necks and not come with information and data. And the goal is to have a takeaway, even if it's a drink conversation, to have a takeaway. And then eventually we will start bringing on guests, because collectively between the two of us, we know so many amazing people from these, like, just different walks of life that can bring some knowledge and information to the table for us. And so my daughter actually just came back from a deployment. She was deployed. She's also in the Army. 8 years. She just hit 8 years. And while she was away on her deployment, we talked religiously 3 days a week, video chat. And we would talk about all of these things. And I'm like, we kept saying, oh my God, we need a podcast. We need a podcast. And even now, like when we talk, some of the stuff that we talk about, and then we end up saying we need a podcast. So this is how it came about. This is how the podcast came about, because we kept saying we need to bottle this up.
Right.
This is good stuff. We also have a book club within our family unit. We have a book club, and we get together once a month, and everybody gets to select a book, and we have commentary about the book, and we do like snacks, and we do a glass of wine. And so we may actually have a book club segment from time to time where we'll all get on and we'll talk about the book. Whoever selected the book will host the book club meeting, and they have their questions, and we'll talk about the actual book, and we'll talk about our take on the book and our experiences with the book. So we'll probably add that in there as well.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a very engaging and entertaining and educational platform, right? Or a podcast. So I know it's not out yet. You guys are still in the planning phase. So where will you be announcing that the podcast is out so that people can go and watch or listen to it?
Yes. So I can be found on Instagram, and that's where I'm going to do the official announcement on Instagram at Qawana Lee. And I think you said that you'll provide that information. So I'll provide that information in my Instagram, and I will also be tagging my daughter, because she's my co-host, or we're co-host. And so I'll be tagging her as well, so that you can also follow her Instagram when I launch it on mine. And then also we'll be launching, because a lot of the podcasts will also be sponsored by her hair care brand, Love Lonnie.
Okay.
So we'll probably also launch it there as well so that people know. And it's going to be a hoot. I'm excited about it. Our favorite thing that we like to say now is, she used to be like, Mom, I remember growing up, you used to always say, I'm not one of your little friends. And now look at you, you one of my little friends.
Well, you're a different age now. You're adults, so it's different. Okay, so I will make sure that that your Instagram information, all of that will be in the notes of the podcast. So you guys, if you didn't catch it, just look at the description or the notes and it will be down there. Okay. All right. So my final question is, what words of encouragement would you provide to someone out there who may be struggling in life in general? It could be with hair loss, it could be cancer, it could be anything. What words of encouragement would you want to provide?
I think I have three.
Okay.
The first one is to continue to show up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Advocate for yourself, speak up for yourself, show up for yourself. At the end of the day, we can't expect people to give us what we're not willing to give ourselves, right?
Yep.
So that's the first thing. I'm going to tell you, that is what has gotten me this far. I don't think that I'd be here had I not shown up for myself and listened to my body, listened to my gut instinct. If my gut instinct's telling me something is off,
Mm-hmm.
listen to my gut instinct. So that's the first thing. Advocate for yourself. The second thing that I would say is to give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
To be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself when you're going through something. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's an illness, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a job loss, whether it's the first thing we do is we become really reactive and we become really hard on ourselves. And we set ourselves on these pedestals and we put ourselves through pressure that no one else is putting us under.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing it to ourselves. And perfectionism is a real thing. And we got to stop that. So giving ourselves a timeout and sitting down and providing ourselves with some care, some TLC, some emotional care, I think is really important during tough times. And then the last thing I would say is go be amazing. Like once you've gotten through giving yourself the grace and, and it's time to pull yourself up by the bootstraps to get on the other side of what you've been going through, go be amazing.
Yes.
Life is short and it's unpredictable and it's wild and it's crazy and it's all these things. Be amazing. Go be amazing. Go whatever. Listen, my sister said, if you want to go join the circus, go join the circus and be the best circus clown you can be. And I love when she says that to me. She's like, her favorite question to me is always, is this going to make you happy? Mm-hmm. And the second question is, are you going to hurt yourself or anybody else by doing it? And if the answer is, yes, this is going to make me happy and nobody's going to get hurt, then go be it. Go be amazing.
Cool. Well, thank you for those words of encouragement. And I also want to thank you for coming on the podcast, sharing your story. You gave some valuable nuggets, some inspiration to people out there. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, thank you for providing this platform. Like I said, this is a new journey for me. Like now that I've gotten the official diagnosis and trying to find community and like-minded people, it's hard to have conversations with people who can't understand what you're going through. And so you have to surround yourself with people who can understand your journey and be of inspiration and good energy and positive vibes. And so I want to say thank you to you for providing such a platform like this for people like myself and others. And wow. I'm like, this is brilliant. Like, I don't know what made you think of it, but this is brilliant. Thank you for the platform.
You are absolutely welcome. And that warms my heart. I love to hear my guests say things. I'm like, oh, it always warms my heart. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, you guys, I am about to wrap up the podcast. But before I leave, I want to remind you all that not a spinoff, but an extension of the Bougie Baldie podcast is the Bougie Baldie TV show. And we are actually looking for people to be on the show. So if you are a business owner that has a service or a product that maybe is related to hair care, hair loss, or anything that supports hair, we're looking for you. Or if you have a business that has a product or service that is just promoting the well-being of women, it could be health and wellness, it could be, nutrition, it could be anything that basically you have developed and created to support women out there. We're looking for you as well. Or if you are just a person who has experienced hair loss and has taken that journey and turned it into something for yourself, or you want to share your story about your hair loss journey, we're looking for you too. So if you're interested in showcasing or featuring your business on the Bougie Baldie show, I'm going to put a link in the description for you to schedule a call with me and we could talk about your potential of being on the show. All right. So that is all I have for you guys today. So from my heart to yours, I will see you next week. Bye. Are you a woman struggling with hair loss, feeling unattractive and insecure? At Limitless Mindset Coaching, we understand the emotional toll that hair loss can take. In just 90 days, we help you transform from feeling lost and embarrassed to radiating with confidence and joy. Imagine building your self-esteem, discovering the perfect camouflage technique to cover up your hair loss, and receiving tips and tricks that can help you with your hair loss and embrace the new you while connecting with a supportive community of women just like you. Say goodbye to those negative emotions and hello to a positive mindset. Picture vibrant new relationships, walking through the room with your head held high, participating in social events and activities again, and living a life filled with happiness. Are you ready to take that first step? Well, visit www.limitlessmindsetcoach.com or click the link in the description today and let's embark on this empowering journey together.
Thank you for watching the Bougie Baldie podcast. Don't forget to subscribe